Hey folks out there in YouTube land, it's Joel Ellison with Pinnacle Gunsmithing. I'm coming at you with a revolver we have in our collection that I think you'll enjoy. Ooh, it's a Ruger SP101 in 22 long rifle. But first, let me get some housekeeping matters out of the way. Our shop will be closed from the 24th through the 28th of April 2025, just for us to take a little vacation. Me and my wife are actually headed up to Boston, so if you're in the area, feel free to say hi if you see us. Let's see, another housekeeping matter. I recently sustained a small injury on my middle finger. I did something very dumb. Okay, a blade was spinning, and I went to clear some chips. And yeah, my finger got caught next to the router blade. I know, it was very dumb. I should not have done it. I know better. That resulted in about 5 stitches and this big old bandage on here. I'll refrain from showing you that, but if you do want to see that, then, well, okay, that's a little weird. But in any case, if it looks like I'm flipping you off, I'm really not. That's not my intention here. But in any case, we have an interesting revolver here. This is a Ruger SP101 in 22 long rifle. Big old swing out cylinder, 8 shots. The SP101 was first came out in 1989, chambered in .38 Special and .357 Magnum. They are an all stainless steel revolver. There have been some modern iterations that have come out with blued steel, but the vast majority of them out there are in stainless. Personally, I kind of like stainless in that it's easy to repair if you do get a scratch or something does happen to it. The 22 long rifle version, it has a 4.2 inch barrel and with big old, very nice adjustable fiber optic front sight and adjustable rear sight. It's quite nice. This particular one is one of the first pistols I ever did a trigger job on. So yeah, we'll get to see how I did there. And yeah, they're pretty straightforward, pretty intuitive. But let's get into it. Let's see what it takes to take apart these pistols, and we'll see how you can even do your own trigger job with these. I won't, of course, be doing one today in full, but we'll see. We'll get into it. Alright, so these pistols are actually fairly straightforward to take apart, but unlike a lot of more common types of revolvers, taking the cylinder out is actually a little bit more involved than some, say, more involved than a Smith & Wesson. First step is, of course, always to ensure the pistol is unloaded. Nothing in the chambers, nothing in the barrel. We're all good to go there. Alright. Unlike a lot of revolvers where the first step is taking out the cylinder, that's actually the last step. First, we're going to start out with taking the grips off. We just have one grip screw. These grips are a little bit more comfortable than some of the original grips that came with back in the 80s, which are you'll find commonly changed out for other grips. This particular screw's fighting me a little bit today. And that screw just comes out. A lot of people tend to, when they remove these grips, they tend to pry and pick and things like that. You don't need to do that. This whole thing is just rubber, so you just kind of twist, and we have one side off, and the other side comes right off too. And you can see these are really quite simple on the inside. Just a big old escutcheon and a little hole there. Now something else that came out is this little pin. Yours may or may not come with that, but this one has it. It just sits in a little hollow right there on the inside of the grip. That's a handy little tool for taking out the mainspring that we'll see here in a sec. The only other thing holding on the rubber grips is this one little small aluminum pin, and we can just wiggle our grip right off. And now you can see on the inside, if you can see the difference in texture between, say, this surface and this surface, you can see that Ruger is once again exercising their expertise in investment cast or lost wax casting methods, which is a good thing. You can make very good parts like that, rather inexpensively. All right, in order to get the mainspring out, first we'll need to cock the pistol. This may be a little more difficult if yours is double action only. This one's double and single action, so it's pretty straightforward. And that pin we pulled out of the grip a minute ago, we can just slide that into this hole at the bottom of the strut. And once we do that, I'm just going to hold that in place as I ease the hammer down. And voila, we have a removed strut assembly. If you don't have to take out this spring, I recommend you don't. This little piece down here, I like to informally call the claw. If you ever have to change one of these springs, you'll find out pretty quick why I call it that. Because this little booger digs right into your fingers, and it hurts like a dickens. All right, now we have a pin here that holds in our hammer. We can just kind of pull that out and just wiggle in this little flag on the back of the pin there, and a little wiggling and maneuvering around the trigger, and our hammer comes out. And you can see the sear surface and the double action pawl right there. If you don't have to take that out, I recommend you don't. But the pin just kind of slides out with a little pressure from a punch, and there's just a little spring in there that causes that to rebound. That's kind of it. Alright, now for the tricky part. This part will require a punch inserted in through the back of the frame. And I like to put 2 fingers right here to keep me from accidentally pulling the trigger while it's halfway in or halfway out of the gun. We have a little detent. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, right there. That's the detent we're going to push. That also is the spring on the back of the trigger return. I'll go ahead and get that out of the gun. I'm just going to put pressure on it and kind of pivot it down. Yeah, there we go. And this is pretty much all the guts of the entire pistol. We have the back of our trigger return spring inside of a channel back here. That's a little detent we were pushing on a minute ago. Got our hand, our cylinder stop, and the transfer bar. The transfer bar is attached directly to the trigger, and it just kind of pivots fairly freely in there, as it should. And this comes up into the frame, and the hammer hits the transfer bar, and the transfer bar transfers that force to the firing pin. Unlike old revolvers that had the firing pin directly on the hammer just rests on the frame in this particular iteration of the pistol. Now the area between the trigger guard here is very finely fitted, and this edge may look very square, but it's really very sharp. You can really hurt yourself on that, so maybe don't do that. Alright, now we have the cylinder. It's still in the frame, and we can undo the cylinder release and slide this right on out. Now the way the trigger guard stays in there and retains the cylinder is that here on the crane we have a bit that holds onto it, about like that. And yeah, that's really all that's holding it in. The crane is removable, nice and easy, and we have our cylinder here. 8 shots of 22 long rifle, and that's pretty much the whole pistol. In order to do a trigger job on something like this, you would first need to take out the mainspring strut and replace that with a different spring. And you can also replace the trigger return on this piece. There's just a little pin holding this bit in. It's fairly straightforward. But with a smaller punch, you can take that piece out, and it's pretty straightforward. You can polish some of the bits inside of there. I won't be going into too much detail on that, but that's theoretically how you can do it. There's lots of other videos out there. Point of order here, if you don't have to pull the trigger when it's out of the gun, don't. There are a lot of little tiny springs and detents, and it is a pain in the neck to get them back into this action here. You just don't if you don't have to. Other than that, that's really all as far as you need to go to break this down for all the cleaning you want. In order to take the barrel off, you would have to have a action wrench in here. But yeah, if you don't have to take off the barrel, i.e. it's not broken, don't. But yeah, these are solid little pistols. It's kind of a tank. It's a little heavy at about 30 ounces, fully assembled. But yeah, it's a solid shooter, very accurate, and it's in 22, so it's tons of fun to shoot. And works really well for what it's intended. Alright, let me put it back together, and I'll come back to you with some final thoughts. Hey folks, if you are reassembling one of these, a quick checkpoint for you is once you have the cylinder and the trigger guard back in, you can kind of see if we have rotation and that the cylinder is stopping where it's supposed to stop. And I'll get you a little better angle on that and a little better on the light. Here we go. You can probably see that. Yeah, that right there is the transfer bar. That's what comes up so that the hammer can come up, hit the transfer bar, and hit the firing pin. Otherwise, the hammer just rests against the frame up here due to that big old notch. Yeah, that notch right there. That's what makes this revolver drop safe, so that you can carry all the ammo in all of the cylinders. That's nice. Alright, let me go ahead and put the rest of it back together. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. This is a good checkpoint to see, okay, have I done everything right? If the cylinder doesn't rotate, you feel a lot of grittiness, you have the cylinder latch, the cylinder stop not coming back up, then that's a good indication that you have messed up. Alright, let me put the rest of this back together and we'll talk some more. Stand by. Alright, we have her back together. We have some dummy rounds in there. Just kind of check function. Single action and double action. And yes, I'm keeping it so that it doesn't go all the way down hard, because these are just action-proofing dummies. These are not snap caps. And then we can open her up and there's simultaneous eject. Woohoo! And yes, casings kind of fly everywhere when you do that for real. But yeah, this is a fantastic little revolver. If you don't have one in your collection, I absolutely recommend them. This is a fantastic first revolver. In fact, my first revolver was an SP101. It was in 38 Special. That thing is a tank. It's a great revolver if you're learning to reload, because you can load those things up to some stupid high pressures, maybe even up to a little bit close to 357 Magnum, and they will. It does nothing to the gun. It's pretty indestructible if you're young and dumb and learning and making mistakes, as I have. In any case, I wouldn't recommend you repeat any of my mistakes. I'm not sharing any load data on the internet. I'm not that dumb. But this is a fantastic little piece to learn on, to learn how to shoot a revolver. Very low recoil, of course, because it's 30 ounces in 22 long rifle. very comfortable to shoot. Actually fairly nice to carry in a 38 special with a short 2-inch barrel or so. And it's a fantastic little gun. If you do have a chance to pick one up, feel free to do so. Some people don't have a little issue with the trigger, but I kind of like it has distinct steps. That way you know exactly when the trigger is going to fall. Like, if it's too smooth and it just kind of rolls into it, then you don't have that warning. Like, make sure your sights are perfectly aligned before you get to this point, and then boop, and it goes off. But in any case, fantastic little pistol. We can hook you up with all sorts of things to help you out with your shooting. We're a fully licensed FFL. We are also licensed as a manufacturer. So if you need any modification or trigger jobs done to your Ruger, we are happy to help you out, especially if you are in the Pickens, South Carolina area or anywhere in the upstate. We'll see you next time. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see us in person, come to the gun show in Pickens on May 17th and 18th and of 2025, if you're watching this in time. But feel free to give us a shout. We'll see you soon. Bye.